Good morning. Today we'll talk about one major issue that is engaging the attention of all the world. The word of the people are sitting shocked, stunned, curious, and fearful or hopeful, depending on where they are, what their affiliations are, and how they perceive the word to be. Just a few hours back, US stealth bombers and the B-52s made a flyover over North Korea, showing their capability to bombard this country. And whenever we go to TV or to the radio, read up a newspaper, we see this country being called a rogue state, a sick state, an outcast. The leaders being denigrated as crazy. People have come to assume that this is a backward state, still living in the Stone Age, where the people are uneducated, illiterate, and are working at the behest of their masters, the political masters. People still think that this is economically a poor country. Some of them are partly true. But the question arises, why is it North Korea snooking at USA? Many countries hate USA. There are 7 major countries which hate them, apart from the Middle East countries. Because Middle East hates them without exception. And then there are 7 other countries, and North Korea is one of them. But why? Well, you have to know the history, the historical and the cultural background. Right till the end of the Second World War, Korea as a whole, the Korean peninsula, was under the control of the Japanese. And the control was there way back for about half a century. World War II ended, and 2 major countries were divided. Germany was divided into East Germany and West Germany. The East Germany to be ruled by Russia, and West Germany to be ruled by USA, though they said it's under the Allied control. But France and England had nothing much to do. It was US which was controlling. And that country united after a long time. The Berlin Wall came down. The same thing happened in Korea. As the Japanese were defeated, these 2 countries, Russia and USA, divided Korea, while USA retained the control on South Korea. Russia propped up North Korea. The first leader of South Korea was one of the most corrupt persons ever created, Syngman Rhee. But he suited the interest of USA to have such a person. And you have seen USA has always propped up corrupt, dishonest people, whether it was Marco in Philippines, whether it was Zia in Pakistan, whether it was Karno in Indonesia, and so on. Because it suits US to have people who are incompetent but corrupt. It can exploit that country very easily, so USA supported Syngman Rhee. And then one day, North Korea said that we must unite, and they invaded South Korea. Well, if the invasion was between the North Korea and the South Korea and the other countries had not intervened, the matter could have been decided. When the war started, the Korean War started, a large number of the South Korean army walked over to the North Korea and they said, okay, we are deserting South Korea. because of the corruption of our leaders, and we want to join North Korea. Naturally, USA could not tolerate it. So they started helping them, and General MacArthur was sent to control and defeat North Korea. But the combined strength of the South Korea and USA could not defeat North Korea. And North Korea started pushing these forces back till they had to vacate Seoul, and ultimately they were confined to Pushkin. This naturally could not be tolerated by Truman, so they went to the UNO, and the UNO passed a resolution 83. This resolution was passed because at that time Russia had boycotted UNO. It was a member. It could easily have vetoed that resolution, but it had boycotted, so it could not veto. And this resolution is admittedly a wrong resolution because North Korea at that time was a sitting member of UNO. And they were not even heard. So, under this resolution, UNO sent its army to defeat North Korea. The combined strength of all the world against one puny country. And they started defeating North Korea. Went up to the Chinese border, and then the Chinese jumped into the fray and pushed back UNO forces. As a matter of fact, Zhou Enlai was himself commanding the Chinese forces. Ultimately, a ceasefire was arrived at. 30th parallel was decided to be the line of control, not the border. And the matter rested there. Now, what USA had done in that war was, according to General McKay, who was commander of the Air Force strategic team, 20% of the population of North Korea was killed by US Army. They threw in the air attacks 375,000 tons of bombs in North Korea. 375,000 tons. And at the same time, out of them, 32,677 tons. Imagine 32,677 tons was napalm, which just burns people. The same bombs which USA had used in Vietnam. And, you know, they are weapons of mass destruction. They are criminal, they are outlawed, but USA used them. So the people have not forgotten it. And that is why the pain and the misery they wanted to avenge. But still, North Korea is a small country as compared to USA. A powerless country compared to this giant. Unfortunately, the war never ended. Even today, South Korea, North Korea, and USA. USA along with South Korea are at war with North Korea. The peace treaty has not been signed till today, and that's the main reason. Had the peace treaty been signed and the line of control become the international border, the problem would not have been there. But it was not signed. And in 2016, when Obama was the president, a secret message came to Obama from North Korea saying that let's sign the peace treaty. We are willing for that. But Obama didn't like it. So what he was talking about, strategic patience. Earlier, Bush had declared them a part of the axis of the evil powers along with Iraq and North Korea. And North Korea started building the nuclear weapons. But there was an agreement between USA and North Korea that USA would give them funds and they would not build the nuclear bomb the way the agreement was with Iran. But Iran also started building the nuclear, and so did this country. So Iran, Iraq, and North Korea became the axis of evil for USA. And when North Korea said that everybody is building nuclear weapons, why should I not build and why should I be at the mercy of USA? They started building their own. And hence this problem comes up. Now, some facts about North Korea. It's a beautiful country. Possibly the only country in the world, with the exception of countries like Bhutan and others, which has not allowed industry to pollute the countryside. Its lush green mountains, its verdant plains are all unpolluted. And people say that they are illiterate. Do you know that this is the only country in the world, even USA doesn't have it, which has 100% literacy? Education to the 11th standard as a secondary class is compulsory and free for everybody. So a country which is so concerned with education, can you call that country backward? Yes. This country doesn't have the luxurious life. Yes. The real wealth is in the cities, as is in India. The villages are by and large poor. The countryside is not that rich. But that's in most of the countries. What happens to India? Is going to be the third largest economy in the world. But apart from the 22 cities, the condition of the villages even today is absolutely sad. Then, North Korea is the only country in peninsula which, while others have been facing recession, has been going up. Even last year, despite the sanctions, despite the trade bans, the growth was 4%. And that has been consistent over the years. Its largest trading partners are China, followed by Indonesia, Thailand, and India. Rather, China, India, and Thailand, and Indonesia. And then, of course, Russia. Barring these, there is no commerce or trade anywhere else. So that being so, what do we call it? As I said, education is there, health is free, health care for everybody. And economically, if you look at the cities, it's okay. Now comes a question why people think it to be wrong. A, it is PR. Hitler's Minister of Broadcasting and Information and Propaganda said, you repeat a lie 1,000 times and people believe it to be truth. CNN and the Western CNN, Voice of America, name it, CBS, CBC, CTV, name any Western news codes. And they don't repeat this 100 times, they repeat it millions of times. That North Korea is a dictatorial regime. Yes, it's a dictatorial regime. There's dynasty. Yes, it is dynasty. But so are many other countries. Dynasty rules are used in most of the places. Even in USA. Bush the Jr. and the Jeb Bush lost by the whisker of hair. So, yes, it is dictatorial. Again, I admit. But the people are happy. The happiness index, if you look at that, is much higher than most of the Western countries have. What do the people need, basically? Do they need democracy ruled by the corrupt people? One thing more, which amazes me. People there are ready to sacrifice themselves for their leader. I was seeing the CNN documentary the other day. And the people said, well, Americans are our enemies. They are their enemies. Despite, you see, and then North Korea is possibly the only country which has not got much economic aid from the world over. Even China, what is doing is having a trade and they are paid back in the shape of resources. So they are not dependent on anybody, and any country which has got a self-respect would not tolerate pinpricks from the others, nor would it tolerate lectures from the others. I do appreciate that till now, USA has been saying that they want to make it democratic. Who the hell are they? But this is for the first time, President Trump and Tillerson, Secretary of State, have said very clearly they don't want regime change, and that's a hopeful statement. But both the countries have walked to the edge of a precipice. And when you have walked to that extent, then it's not so easy. Do you know that the natural resources in this country are huge and they can carry on with the word boycott? Education is rampant. Research and development is of a high order, notwithstanding the propaganda of the Western press. As a matter of fact, you know what happens is that Vietnam, Korea, Cambodia, Laos, they come in news only when the bad things happen. Vietnam was a thorn in the side of USA, and USA had a very bloody nose in the war. It was defeated practically. And today Vietnam's growth is 8 to 10% per year. The GDP growth. And Vietnam is a very flourishing economy. North Korea could have been if they had not diverted their attention to nuclear, but they were forced to do it. And then tell me, which country doesn't want to defend itself? And if India can have nuclear weapons, and Pakistan can have, and Israel can have, and South Africa can have, and Iran can have, and USA and Russia can have. USA and Russia have a combined 93% of the world's nuclear weapons. So what's the objection to having North Korea having a nuclear weapon? It is simply because the ego of the leaders of USA till now. The change in the leadership has changed some perceptions, but it takes time to percolate. And hopefully it would. I am no friend of North Korea. I have no enmity with USA. But when something is wrong, I have to say it. A country which cares for its youth, a country which cares for the education, is much better than a country which pokes its nose in the internal affairs of the other countries. What I suggest is let USA leave North Korea to its own fate. Let it not interfere. Let's accept 30th parallel as an international boundary. And you would see everything would be hunky-dory. There would be no issues at all. Let the pride of USA not stand in the way of negotiations. That is the need today. But North Korea by itself is not something which is to be bored. As a matter of fact, it's behind a bamboo curtain, if not an iron curtain. And even this, in this age of information, a lot of disinformation is there. People have to clear the clouds of ignorance and see things in proper perspective. Thank you.